Welcome to this edition of the Conscious Business Coffee Break, where we take a few moments to explore what's happening in the conscious business movement, expand awareness, and support your efforts in conscious business. Greetings, everyone. I'm Stephen Donaco of the Conscious Business Enterprise, a division of Humanities team. And on today's episode, we're talking about evolving our definition of profit. And the article that I'm basing today's program on is from the New York Times. It's called The New Goldman Sachs Fund Will Track Paul Tudor Jones Feel-Good Companies. And I'll put a link to this in the video or in the comments to the video when I'm done. But basically, the article starts with a challenge that Deepak Chopra made to the billionaire investor Paul Tudor Jones II to invest in companies based on how they contribute to bettering the world. And the short of it is that Jones ended up building an entire foundation called Just Capital around two questions. One was, why can't companies be an instrument for goodness? And then two, why can't companies focus their capital, human and financial, on being a change agent for societal betterment? Change agent for justness. So the foundation ultimately developed a series of metrics to measure corporate America on more than simply just making profit. And the way that it does this is it administers annual polls to determine which corporate practices matter most to Americans. Now, this seems to be based on the article, American-based fund. It would be interesting to see how this generalizes to the rest of the world as well. But in any case, the polls that Just Capital sends out to companies include measuring things such as how workers are treated, customer satisfaction, the types of products offered, environmental stewardship, job creation, community support, and responsible management. And these metrics are the basis for an exchange traded fund developed by Goldman Sachs. And it's interesting in the article, it says the fund is a quote unquote feel good selection of Russell 1000 companies, tracking the top 50% of those in each industry based on Just Capital's publicly available model. So just a quick comment on that. Why are these measures referred to as quote unquote feel good? Is it just simply because they do good? And doesn't it also feel good to make a profit? So this is going back to my theme for this episode today is like, can we expand our definition of profit? I mean, if we're not saying it feels good to make a profit, but it feels good to do these other things, do we really need to think about what our definition of profit really is? So let me just go on in the article. Whether the formula is a winning one for investors is a bit of an open question. First, though, the fund would have outperformed the Russell 1000 by 3.5% over the past couple of years. That's the good news. And then what the article says the bad news is that there's no way to test the formula any further back. And I'll have more to say about that in a moment. Different companies can come onto and be taken off the index depending on the periodic results of Just Capital's polling. So that's seen as a negative because it doesn't ensure the consistency of measuring the same companies over time. So that's one of the risks. In any case, Jones says it's our best effort. It's not a science. There are many different ways you can debate the decisions that we have to make, and I'm sure it will evolve and we're going to get better at it. And I would agree with that. Just Capital says the companies in the fund outperformed the remainder of the Russell 1000 in a number of important socially conscious ways, including they paid 71% less in fines for consumer sales terms violations. They paid 94% less in equal opportunity commission fines. They produced 45% lower greenhouse gas emissions per dollar of revenue, and they created jobs in the US at a 20% greater rate. And then also, investors pay only a 0.2% fee, which is about half the price of other socially responsible, or what they call environmental, social, and governance-oriented funds, ESG. So this fund's also being sold as a solution to pension funds and other institutional investors who are seeking to shift their investments into socially responsible funds. So this fund is being created not just because Jones was given the challenge, but it's actually a response to the market, right? So in our economic system, in the world of capitalism, in the world of commerce, products and services are offered in response to demands of the market. So here we're seeing the market demanding this kind of fund. Like, give us something that we want to invest in because it's not only feeling good, but it's doing good, and it's aligned with our values. So, of course, Jones isn't the only person doing this. Other big investors are responding to the trend towards socially responsible investing. For instance, Lawrence Fink, founder of BlackRock, which is the largest investment manager in the world that has over $6 trillion under management, wrote a letter to CEOs that said, quote, "To prosper over time, every company must not only deliver financial performance, but also show how it makes a positive contribution to society." And then Paul Jones says, no matter their industry, he wants executives and board members to be thinking, quote, "What's my environmental footprint relative to everyone else in my field? What are my best business practices relative to my competitor? Am I doing as good a job as I possibly can, or is there someone doing better?" And I would add to that, is there something else I could be doing better? Now, there's this point of confusion to me in the article as well. And it says, while it may be in vogue to talk about socially responsible investments, until they prove they can perform better over a significant period of time, it will be hard for them, or it will be hard for even the most virtuous investors to plow significant sums into them. All right, so one, if you're a virtuous investor, the financial profit is one element. The doing good for the world is equally as important. So I would take issue with that. And I also would say, basically, is this willful blindness? Because, for instance, in the book Firms of Endearment, which is about companies that do good, and the proof that doing good is profitable, for benefit companies, this is according to data in the book, for benefit companies have significantly outperformed the market over all time frames, ranging from 3 years to 15 years. Now, granted, that's not 30 years or 50 years, but it's still longer term. So if you get the book Firms of Endearment, this data has been out there. So this question in the article about whether the performance is there, just know the data is out there. It's the same thing about emotional intelligence in the workplace. In order for people to perform better, if you treat them with emotional intelligence and you are empathic as a manager, it's been proven that people perform better. So the data is out there. And for us to continue to question this, like in the media, the mainstream media, and among the investment community, is myopic, frankly. For instance, then also Paul Pullman, CEO of Unilever, said to Reuters in 2015, quote, "Our socially responsible brands accounted for half the company's growth in 2014 and grew at twice the rate of the rest of the business. Consumers are increasingly demanding responsible business and responsible brands." So there you have it. This huge company, Unilever, it has data. So again, why the question about whether this is actually going to be profitable in the long run? Because the information's out there. So why are we not looking for it more closely? Or why is the mainstream not looking for it more closely? So then what's the meaning of profit anyway? We've taken this narrow view that it's only about the financial. And I propose that we reassess the meaning of profit to include the new, evolved, and better reality of not just feeling good, but of doing good. And if you go back and you look at the origin of the word profit, it means things like advantage or benefit, progress, to advance or on behalf of, and in these origins of the word, it speaks nothing specifically of financial. It's just these are general concepts: advantage, benefit, progress, to advance on behalf of. So I propose that we go back to the original spirit of the word profit and look at it more holistically, and then we can get over this very narrow meaning of profit, meaning to be just financial. Because if we continue to look at business through a narrow lens, it's only going to perform narrowly on behalf of bettering the world. And we are absolutely at the point in human evolution where we're, quite frankly, we need and we must be much more responsible with how we treat one another and the world. So, in alignment with the Conscious Business Declaration, I see two of the principles at work here. Principle 2, the purpose of business is to increase economic prosperity while contributing to a healthy environment and improving human well-being. And then principle 4, business must operate with economic, social, and ecological transparency. So there you have it. Thanks everyone who tuned in today. I appreciate your messages of greeting. My greetings back to you. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again next week on Wednesday, 9 a.m. U.S. Central Time for another edition of the Conscious Business Coffee Break. Have a great weekend, everybody.